Okay, let me take you outside today and show you my nettle plant. So spring is coming, it will come, don't worry. Be prepared when the nettles start growing, because the best time to harvest the nettle is actually before they get really tall and big and before they're flowering and having seeds and all that. So this plant grows like really big, 2 meters, up to 2 meters. And that's when you see it, and they grow usually a bunch of them together. So now it's time to watch out for the tiny little nettle plants to come out, or soon, depending on where you live, in springtime. And I just found nettle growing right outside my house. So yeah, actually this plant seems to be really happy to live near humans and to grow just about anywhere. So it's an easy plant to find and to harvest. Let's see. So this is my little nettle plant here, growing right outside my doorstep. I mean, this one I'm not going to harvest. It's alone. It's just one. You know, usually you have lots of nettle where one nettle grows, maybe others might grow, and then it's a better, those are better circumstances to harvest. But it's of course nice to see and to observe it, to watch it grow. And as I said, they like growing near humans, so there is a strong connection. It's also, of course, a plant that has been used in many ways since a long time by many different people from different regions. So nettle was used to make fiber, like similar to the hemp plant that, people made fiber and actual fabrics out of nettle, for example. And then, it has been used to treat certain things as a diuretic or to strengthen, also just like as a vegetable. You know, you can make nettle soup and nettle pesto. It's, on one hand, it's a very food-like herb also, that it is rich in nutrients and all kinds of minerals and vitamins and polyphenols. So it's good, definitely, to eat it, but it's also a very potent medicinal plant on the other hand, It has so much quercetin that with nettle alone you can combat all the spring allergies. Just zooming in here on this nice bumblebee. No, it's actually, yes, it is a, what is it? No, it's a bee. Flying from flower to flower. That is what happens. You go outside, you get distracted. You get distracted by everything that grows around the plant you are actually wanting to be with and look at. And oh, there's another plant. Look here. Here is the St. Robert's herb. This is Geranium robertsianum, this one here with the little red. So those green leaves also, they get a bit more reddish in the sun later when the sun gets more intense. And then they have those delicate little flowers. And this is also very famous, well-known medicinal herb. You can make a tea out of it. It's very aromatic. I got distracted from the nettle here, seriously, but I just had to show you. First the bees, now the St. Robert's geranium. Also really nice plant. I mean, just make sure, I just read in a book about the St. Robert's herb, don't confuse it with the water hemlock or hemlock. It has also a bit this feathery type of leaves, but you can see the leaves are kind of much smaller, and then when you see the flower, it's clear what it is. Just in this early stage, maybe it could be mistaken for some other highly poisonous plant, but not really. I mean, I'm like, okay, it doesn't look too much like water hemlock. So, and also here is no water close by, but it's of course always good to watch out for lookalikes. Here we have a Mediterranean thistle. So this is not milk thistle, but kind of a local thistle here. It's really nice to see what else grows everywhere. So prepare for spring. Here's another herb, Robert, and another bee. Here's herb Robert. Here's this one. I really love those tiny little leaves. Really nice, delicate little. I think it's a light pink, the flower, if I remember correctly. Light pink or light purple or something. Really beautiful. And this plant here, it's actually not clover, what you might think from the shape. It's called oxalis. And it has those yellow flowers, I think. Is it called Bermuda buttercup, the English name? I'm not sure. I think I remember this, that it was called that. This is more like, they would call it an invasive plant that is not from here. It takes over everything, but it takes over everything because that's what grows, you know, that's what grows as a soil fertilizer. And I mean, it has definitely found its ecological niche here, and that is why this plant is growing really, like covering the ground here everywhere. Like I have those yellow flowers now after the rain, literally everywhere on the ground. But it's because, yeah, the poor soils, and we don't have that much rain in this area. I mean, in this season it rains, in spring it rains a bit, in winter and spring. So there's always the question, you know, which plants are really invasive or not wanted. I mean, yeah, it's relative, you know. I mean, there is no use in fighting those invasive plants. Actually, sometimes we just have to embrace them and see what they bring us and how we can manage them, or how we can improve the conditions for native plants or the plants we want to grow to come back, no? So yeah, this is more the question, always focusing on working with nature and not against. So, but back to nettle. Nettle is, of course, also sometimes seen as a weed, and some people might not want it in their garden. Of course, you get a sting if you touch them. So, yeah, it definitely has also both sides and has fans and haters. If you have a lot of nettle growing outside, you know, you can cut it and just, I remember my grand aunt, she had in her garden, she was gardening a lot, and she had this old bathtub in the garden where she cut some nettles, threw them in the water in the bathtub. So this was just just as a container, the bathtub, and just let the nettles soak in the water until the water turned totally black. And this was the water she used for other plants to keep them free of pesticides and fungi, from pests. So she used the nettle as a pesticide. So she wanted to keep the plants free from other bugs that would be harmful, or fungi. So it's a good repellent in this sense, nettle, for other plants. Also good fertilizer, of course, for other plants. So yeah, this dark liquid, black liquid almost, she used it to irrigate other plants. So this is one use of nettle. Of course, for us humans, we can also use it in many ways. You can soak this fresh nettle in vinegar, for example, make a really strong vinegar infusion. This is to keep it stable. Yeah, of course, if you make a water decoction, you can use it in the moment, but it can't be stored for longer. If you make a tea, for example, if you make it in the vinegar, then this is a way to preserve it, like the same as in alcohol, for example. But if you make, for example, a strong nettle vinegar, this is something you could use as a hair rinse. It's very good for the scalp and for the hair. It's kind of nutritive and keeps the scalp free of dryness and dandruff and things like that. So it has a long history of being used in this way as a hair tonic. And of course, its nutritive qualities, like you can use it in food, in soups and stews and pesto and all this. You can, of course, make a tea. In this case, you would maybe make a long infusion to get really all the minerals and all the good stuff out, and then just drink this long infusion that you would maybe even steep overnight. So this would be a nourishing, nutritive infusion from the nettles. And this plant actually also contains so much quercetin. I just said it can also combat spring allergies because of its quercetin content. But in this case, unfortunately, you can't use it as tea. The heat would destroy the quercetin. Yeah, also the nettle would have been carefully harvested, you know, not like letting it dry in the sun, or this quercetin degrades really quickly after harvesting. So this is a bit the problem. Yeah, you need kind of especially processed nettles that are carefully dried, or better freeze dried, to really maintain all the properties, all the quercetin, and to not have it just dissipate. And then you would put the nettle in capsules to preserve them, and also to easier swallow them, because if you can't make the tea, you have to think of other ways to take them. So freeze-dried nettle in capsules has the highest quercetin content, or let's say is a good way to preserve the quercetin. And this would be a good allergy treatment. And now I'm showing you here my dried nettle. So this is actually nettles I bought on the market. My husband brought this home for me. Like, here, Honey, here's some nettle for lunch. But I was like, oh, I don't even want to touch it when they were fresh. I mean, now you can touch them. They're not going to sting you. But when nettles are fresh, of course, the handling is tricky. Yeah, once they're cooked, it's fine. Once they're dried, it's fine. But you need to use gloves. And I was a bit too lazy, so I was like, hey, I just hang this bunch up and just let it dry. So you can hear it's perfectly dried. Actually, I over dried it a bit. You know, I just hung it up and then I forgot about it. So you can already see it's getting pretty dark. Yeah, so we want more this kind of fresher green color. This darker shade is probably already a lot of oxidation. So the quercetin, I'm not so sure if I would really get enough quercetin out of this if I would want to treat allergies. Yeah, I mean, this doesn't mean that the nutritive qualities are all gone. No, of course, I can still use this, make a pesto, make some tea, make a long infusion, rehydrate it even for, use them for cooking. Or if I would have made my hair tonic vinegar, then maybe I could have used them better fresh to infuse them fresh into the vinegar. Yeah, so it always depends on how you want to use them. Yeah, you can still, of course, the dried nettle, it's not that everything's gone. I mean, look at it, it's not too bad. Yeah, it's a bit dark in some spots. Yeah, I let it hang too long. Yeah, of course, it should be out of the sun, that you dry it out of the sun, of course. I mean, basically oxygen and sunlight degrades the quercetin. Yeah, so sometimes even if you buy nettle tea, I mean, they just harvest it and cut it down, let it lie in the sun until it's dry, and then, so it depends. You never know which quality you get if you buy dried nettle. So there could be still some quercetin or a good amount of quercetin in it or not, but this would be just for treating allergies. For any other use, you still would have the minerals and everything else. Of course, in a dried plant, fresh is always has more nutrients in it. That's, of course, drying is already a form of processing, and some of the constituents get lost. This is just what we have to accept. But you take a bit more, I mean, nettle is also so abundant that probably, you can gather enough nettle to make it worth for you. And try something out of these recipes today. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Write me your feedback, and if you like this info about nettle, and maybe you make it your herb of the month once it pops up in your backyard or around you. Even in the city, I mean, this grows basically anywhere, in a park, or it's amazing. It's really a generous plant, so you don't have to worry about over harvesting or anything. I mean, nettle is not in close to extinction or anything. It's a very generous plant. Like often these plants that we call weeds, they are often very generous with their medicine. We just have to recognize them and recognize their medicine and use it. So enjoy your nettles in spring. Hopefully the sun comes through and spring comes through, and the first nettles are going to pop up on the ground really soon. Okay, see you next time. Ciao, ciao.